We cannot wait for the world's impoverished, malnourished, uneducated, and sick to wait a generation for the rest of the world to act. As an almost college graduate student, I ponder if I've gained any skills that could be put to use straight after school to make an impactful change. In a way, I'm happy to have gone to a school where I felt just like one of many. The University of Michigan was a great preparation for the real world in that sense, with a student body of over 40,000 students, large lectures, and a city large enough that you can meet someone new every day. They encouraged us to make changes within the smaller communities we occupied, whether it was in the dorm room, a classroom, a student organization. We could be significant in some way or another. For years now, I have heard the word wait. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost meant never. We must come to see, with one of our distinguished jurists, that justice too long delayed is justice denied. Wait essentially means, hold on, you're currently not my priority, but I'll get back to you when I finish everything else and decided it's worth my time. If I do not make myself heard, what is the purpose of holding an opinion over a certain cause? All of us may be working towards different movements, and some of us may not be working towards anything at all. But I think the most common mutual outlook is our value for life, whether it's your own or another's or both. Each individual is unique, and what motivates us is a hope of generating meaning out of our actions and life. So where can I start? Where I grew up, there was a significantly small representation of minorities, and had grown up all my life surrounded by white people. It wasn't until I moved to Malaysia in 4th grade that I was exposed to diversity. Still, I grew up wishing that I could be white, to look glamorous and sparkly like all of my friends. I even resented my parents for being Japanese. I asked at one point, couldn't either of you been half or something so that I could have those white genes? I was involved in the Japanese American Citizens League, where I was the youth group president of the Portland division. We discussed civil rights issues in the community and most of all existed for one another as a support system. I attended national conferences where civil rights leaders from across the nation fought for recognition, not just for Asian Americans, but for all people of color. I wasn't passionate back then. Why are all of these people making a fuss when we were pretty much considered white? Stop drawing attention to us. Let us live in peace. The Japanese internment during World War II was something we emphasized often, and every year on February 19th, we had a day of remembrance for those who were confined in the camps and denied of their rights as American citizens. It's something that needs to be passed down generations from now, as it is an issue overlooked often by American textbooks and classrooms. Black Lives Matter is the most high-profile movement currently occurring in America today. The systemic racism ingrained in America's society has continuously marginalized Black people to the point where their safety is at stake. Imagine living life every day feeling as if the rest of the population feared you, denied you, could potentially harm you. I will never understand this feeling, but what I can do is exert my best efforts to prevent this feeling from ever arising again. Imagine living life struggling because you are who you are. It's something you can't control. It's your identity. Although it is not to the same extent, I have struggled with accepting myself as a person of color. I always thought that life was unfair for giving some people more melanin than others, a sign of inferiority. I knew that I had potential, but I felt like I could be so much more if I could just get rid of my Asian identity. My involvement in the Japan Student Association here has brought me closer to the United Asian American Organization on campus at U of M. In the past, UAAO has focused extensively on forming solidarity across Asian cultures, but we're not the only ones that need a voice. Although it may be easier and comfortable to remain in a bubble with people who share similar values and cultures, all of us share a common identity in that we are all human beings. I read an article recently. It's a common fact that Asians have historically been labeled the model minority, the race, other than the white one, that was able to see success in society. Good education, good jobs, high salaries, etc. Asian Americans gobble this all up, happy to be compared to the white race that had virtually everything in the palm of their hands. Because hey, the closer to being white, the better, right? We've all heard about #OscarsSoWhite. Why is it that such a large proportion of white males and females are getting recognized in America while minority groups are being placed on the sidelines with no acknowledgement for their accomplishments and talents? Influential Asian entertainers such as George Takei, Sandra Oh, Constance Wu, and more have brought up this issue. It is important to have role models like them to act as encouragement for voicing our own concerns. You could also tell from the way they mocked the Asian children on stage at the Oscars the complete and utter disrespect these people had. This goes back to the issue of model minority. These kids were being portrayed as bankers, future successful leaders. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But we live in the 21st century, and this is still happening. Going back to that article I mentioned, it wasn't that America became less racist towards Asian Americans. It was that they could use their leverage over us to compare and measure us against other minorities. Other people of color were marginalized through the emphasis of success in the Asian community. Whereas we thrived in the white world, these others were put in jail, associated with violence, unemployed. This vicious cycle continued throughout the years, where POCs were forgotten about, and the government unwilling to prioritize their freedom and equality. I realize that while I remain content in my current position in the community, I am part of the problem. I mustn't be complacent. As a person of color, I should be uniting with others to bring awareness and fight for the rights of those who cannot achieve it alone. I've been active in the Asian Pacific Islander American community since about my sophomore year, and a lot of what we talk about is our role and position as people of color. Can we stand by and let our fellow POCs suffer while we reap the benefits of having the same privileges as whites? You can't just throw this under the rug and say, I'll deal with it later. No, you must deal with it now, and you must continue to deal with it later on. Just because you achieve one milestone doesn't mean you can just stop and take a rest. No, you keep going until you reach the end goal. We're far from that. I will admit that we've progressed since the dark days of segregation, and that compared to the past, we've made significant strides. But why are we comparing ourselves to something in the past? We are living in the now, and if there are issues, they should be addressed. Today's standards should not be compared with what we had in the past because the world is ever-changing. The social, political, and economic climate that you currently live in shape your understanding of the world, what you take away from it, and what you hope to get out of it. Gandhi once said, "Be the change that you wish to be in the world." No one is a superhero, and no one can accomplish these tasks on his or her own, nor are they expected to do so. What's important is that you take those necessary steps and do your part that will contribute to the change you wish to see. It takes some people time to realize these dreams, but there is no time like the present. And it's not too late to start now. A lot of times people think that it's too late to get into activism or that there has been too much pain and suffering to help. We can never forget about the atrocities committed in the past, and it is our duty to make sure that generations to come remember the history of the United States. However, while acknowledging this shame, we must always progress and move forward to create better lives for the people that live on this planet. So where do we go from here? How are you going to shape your life in a way that is impactful for yourself as well as other people? Combating inequality and fighting for human rights doesn't require a specific age or race or type of person. I believe that as graduates of U of M, this is what we've taken away from our education: a mindset, a willingness to change.